In this video, I'm going to show you how to lose weight as a type 1 diabetic with effective strategies that will allow you to lose weight very quickly and keep it off permanently. Number one, by reducing how much insulin you are injecting. And that is accomplished by eating specific foods, and this may shock you. I was watching a TED Talk on YouTube, and this woman is a type 1 diabetic, and she was saying how her diet allows her to reduce her insulin, and she's a marathon runner. So I thought, well, I don't want to run marathons, but I was curious to hear about what she was eating. So she was telling us that she eats a ketogenic diet, and it's mostly fat with a moderate amount of protein, and she eats very few carbohydrates, between 30 to 50 grams of carbohydrates per day. And I thought, my gosh, how does she run marathons with so few carbohydrates? But her body was using fat as the fuel. And so I thought, okay, this is really interesting. So I wanted to know, well, how much insulin is she taking? And she revealed that she was taking, or I should say injecting, 30 units of insulin a day. And my jaw dropped because I thought, that is more than I'm taking. I wasn't even injecting 30 units of insulin, and I was eating way more carbs than her. I can eat over 300 grams of carbohydrates and not even go near 30 units of insulin. So I thought, that there's something wrong with that. That's not working. And she's thinking, I mean, she must have been taking many more units before, but for 30 units of insulin with only 50 grams of carbohydrates is not good. I tried various ketogenic and low carbohydrate diets, and the last one I was on was a vegan ketogenic diet. And that was the only oil I had was a little bit of sesame oil for flavor. You know, I didn't want to gain fat, so I didn't want to eat a bunch of oil. And so I got my fats from nuts and seeds. And I was tracking my carbs and my fats and my calories. And I was not losing any weight. And my circulation was getting much worse, and I started getting brain fog. When I was speaking, I was having trouble finding the words sometimes, and I thought, oh my gosh, you know, like, what am I getting, dementia? This is crazy. And my fingers and my toes started turning really red, and they started swelling, and I started getting this crazy pain in my fingers and my toes, and so I started having to actually ice them. And the pain, I couldn't even type sometimes, and I couldn't even walk, and so I knew something had to change. So I started searching for other diabetics who could eat a different diet with better outcomes, where they were able to have lower insulin intake, and they could keep their weight down. And I thought, I'm just going to search. There can't just be ketogenic. There's got to be others. So I found an interview with these two guys, and they were both type 1 diabetics. And I thought, ooh, you know, they're lean, they're healthy, they say this really works. What is this diet? And one of them was a doctor. So I thought, wow, this is really neat. And so what they explained is that they were both on a ketogenic diet, and they were both eating very low carbohydrate, and they're both athletes like me. We work out a lot, and we need a lot of energy, and their insulin resistance was getting worse. So what that means is their blood sugars kept going higher and higher, even though they were keeping their carbohydrates the same, very, very low. and they didn't know what was going on. They were saying, this is really strange. I'm having to take more insulin. My blood sugar is going up. I'm not changing anything. What's the deal? And that was what was happening to me as well, is that my insulin resistance was getting worse and my circulation. So if you think about the fat you eat is the fat that goes in your body. It goes in your blood vessels. So think about your blood vessel, and inside the fat, it's got to go somewhere. It's coating the blood vessels. So that means it has the nutrients have a restricted flow of where to get throughout your body. And so look at the fingers. Look how small and narrow the fingers are. So of course we have issues getting the circulation to our fingers and our toes, our extremities, if we have too much fat in there. And so that fat intake will impair your blood flow, your circulation. It's in your brain. That's where you get the brain fog from. And they actually call that type 3 diabetes, where people get Alzheimer's. So they also said that when you're eating all this fat, if that total fat intake of what you're eating exceeds 10% of your total daily calories, the fat will block the glucose that's in your body from entering the cells, and which is requiring more and more insulin. So you're gonna have to take more insulin. So the more you keep up with this high fat diet, the more insulin you're going to have to take, which means it's going to be more and more difficult to manage your weight. These two guys, Cyrus and Robbie, they created a program called Mastering Diabetes. They also have a book by the same name. You should definitely check it out. It's fantastic. It will tell you how everything works with diabetes in a scientific manner that's very easy to understand. They specifically said that when you cut down those fats to around 10%, then and only then can you increase the fruits, the starchy vegetables. You can add your whole grains and beans. And I love carbs. I would rather eat carbohydrates than fat, for sure. So I thought, okay, I want to try this. I want to see if it works for me. I was doubtful, but I like to be optimistic. I love to have hope. It's super exciting. Like, ooh, I get to try something new. And I always love trying new things. I was really afraid that my blood sugars were going to go through the roof, that I was going to have trouble managing my blood sugar. And I also didn't want to go from low carbs to eating a bunch more than I'm used to and gaining a bunch of weight. The first thing I did was lower my fat intake. That meant no oil. I reduced my nuts and seeds. I was really excited to eat the carbs. So the first thing I did was lower all those fats and, like I said, eliminated all oils. And so I did that for a whole week. Then at that point, I started adding more carbohydrates. The first carbohydrate I added was fruits, and they said that surprisingly is the one that won't spike your blood sugar as much as, let's say, grains. So I started adding a little bit more fruit and adding a little bit every couple days. I was really excited because I felt so much better, had way more energy, and I didn't have to exercise as much. And the amount of insulin I had to take was so much less. So I'm super excited. So I've been on this plan for over a year now. There's an app called Chronometer, and it's free. And so what I did is I plugged in everything that I was eating every day, so I could figure out how much of this fat can I eat. And then I learned which foods have fat. Everything has fat in it. Blueberries have fat. There's a little bit of saturated fat in plant foods, and I was floored to learn that. So it's an excellent app. And so for instance, you'll look at a package, it'll say, percentage based on a 2,000 calorie diet. Well, here's the thing. If most people eat a 2,000 calorie diet, they will be overweight. They'll be fat. If I ate 2,000 calories a day, I'm really small. I'm tiny. I'm 5 feet. I'm little, and I would be overweight. And believe it or not, most men, they only need about 1,800 calories a day. Obviously, if you're tall and you're an athlete and you go running and weightlifting or whatever, you're gonna need more calories than that, most likely. Or if you're a teenager and you're really active. And most women, we only need about 1,600 calories per day. But if you're inactive, it may be more like 1,200 to 1,400. So everyone's a little bit different. But let's just use the 2,000 calorie a day number that we're all so used to using. So if you eat 2,000 calories a day and you want to limit your fat intake to 10% of your daily calories, 2,000 times 10%, that's 200 calories. That's all the fat that you're supposed to eat a day. It's low. It's really low. We're talking a handful of nuts, and that's it. So, because everything has fat. Grains have fat. Like I said, blueberries have fat. Beans have fat. And we are supposed to eat fat. Avocados are fine as long as you're just eating like a little bit. By getting rid of all animal products, all oils, and reducing my total fat intake, my cholesterol went from 201 to 148. Right? Awesome, right? So my doctor was really excited. Now, carbohydrates can be problematic, but it depends on which carbohydrates you are eating. So if you're going to eat sugar or pastries, French fries, soda chips, yeah, your blood sugar is going to be terrible. It's going to be high. You're going to be overweight. So it's not carbohydrates specifically that the problem is. The problem is, which carbohydrates are you eating? I don't even recommend people eat bread or pasta if they're a type 1 because you're going to have to take more insulin. So the carbohydrates that you want as a type 1 diabetic are whole carbohydrates. We're talking quinoa, brown rice, but I try to stay away from rice because of the arsenic, and the arsenic has been shown in some studies to increase our need for insulin, and because it raises our blood sugar. And then I eat whole oats. It's called oat groats. I eat that instead of rice. It tastes just like brown rice. You can now eat starchy vegetables. So you can eat potatoes, you can eat corn, you can eat your peas, which are delicious and sweet, and beans, great source of protein, as are lentils. So those are wonderful substitutions for meat. You just gotta add the right spices and seasonings. You can have your fruit, you can have your vegetables, your greens, and your legumes, and you just want to reduce the amount of nuts and seeds and avocado. Now that I've been tracking my food intake, I know pretty much that I'm eating between 10 to 15% of my calories from fat. And so now what I do is I track the amount of insulin that I am injecting, my total units of insulin. So I don't want to go over 30. I've heard doctors saying that 30's good, 30 or less. And so if I want to gain weight, I allow myself to go up to 30, but I try to keep the number of insulin that I take in, the number of units, between 20 and 25. But I'm small, so I don't need to eat a lot of carbohydrates to be healthy. So what I do is I'll put down how many units of insulin I eat for breakfast, and any corrections, I'll add that for lunch and then for dinner, and then I take my long-acting, what I also call is my nighttime insulin. So my total number of units of insulin I take per day is about 20 and up to 25. And this allowed me to drop my weight and have lots of energy and feel great, absolutely great. So I love my potatoes, I love the food I eat, and I've got some recipes on my channel if you're thinking, what do I eat? And I also have a book that's called The High Five Diet. It talks about when I got sick and with chickenpox and how that virus triggered my type 1 diabetes and all the diets I tried and all the crazy stuff I did to try to regain my health. And I've got amazing recipes in there. They're called low-fat plant-based. So I've got those in there as well. And on this channel, if you haven't already subscribed, and I hope to see you soon.